Hello everybody and welcome to the Goldbridge Interview. What is the Goldbridge Interview? Well, I've always wanted to sit down and be interviewed. I used to love Parkinson growing up. I'm not too sure about Piers Morgan's life stories, but I'd love to do that. And I've never been asked to do it. And I thought, you know what? Let's just do it the way we always do our content. We'll ask the people who matter the questions they want answering, and we'll answer them in that way. And that's what we've done. I've time-stamped it in the video description, each of the questions we're going to answer. Some will say we're scratching the surface because there's loads of questions you could answer, but there's some really good ones in there, and I'm looking forward to getting on with it. So let's get on with it. The first question is, do you think that you get the credit you deserve in this industry that you work in? And I think it's a great question, and hopefully they all will be great questions like that, because the short answer is no. I think that this industry I work in, I mean, I don't even know what industry it is. I suppose the entertainment industry, isn't it? But I've never worked in an industry like this. The backstabbing, the snakes, you know, there is snaky behaviour, because ultimately you're working in an entertainment industry, and whether you're a stand-up comedian, a footballer, or, you know, an actor, you're all vying for notoriety and are supposed to be the best. And whilst that is very interesting, it also brings out the worst in the human psyche. So in the previous jobs I've done, you know, trust, loyalty, professionalism, having people's back. These are some of the traits that I grew up with, you know, not only in my family and friend life, but in my professional life. And then you come into this industry, and it is a struggle. It is a struggle at times. And where you do good, you don't always get the recognition. For example, last night, 35,000 people are watching me do a watch along for England against Denmark. I almost forgot them already. But, you know, number one. Now, I am not that personality that sits there. I'm quite humble. But I'm also going to sit here and say, well, I'm obviously good at what I do. And the team that I work with are obviously good at what I do. Good at what we do. So do we get that notoriety? No, definitely not. We don't. I mean, obviously you're going to get people who love what you do. You're going to get people who dislike what you do. I'm not talking about, you know, I don't expect people on social media to be saying, oh, Goldbridge and his crew, they do a great job. I don't expect that to happen, because that's the world of entertainment, isn't it? You know, you're going to get people who like what you do. You're going to get people who don't like what you do. You know, some people love Love Island. Some people would rather, you know, paint a fence. You know, that's the way it is. But I think beyond the industry, and you're talking fellow peers, mainstream media and brands, there is an elitism. There is you know, they don't want to acknowledge that. But the reality is, if you look at that video last night that I did with 35,000 people watching, and it got over 800,000 views, you go and get the stats or the figures for a daytime show on ITV or BBC One. They won't be getting 800,000 viewers watching that programme. Yet we did. And yet there is this ignorance towards it. So, look, does it bother me? Not really, because I enjoy what I do. But do we, the people I work with, or I, get the credit we deserve? Definitely not. Definitely not. I think there is people who turn their nose up about it, who are just the viewers, and there are people who turn their nose up about it who are your peers, and also, you know, as I said, brands and the mainstream media, and I don't know why they do, because it's not easy. It's a very hard industry to work in, very hard. You've got to be talented, and you've got to work hard, and you've got to be lucky in some sense as well. And, you know, it's also an industry definitely where if you know certain people, you will get on. I know people in this industry who shouldn't even be in the industry, who things have been kept quiet about, or, you know, they've made so many mistakes, but they know the right people who can keep helping them. And, you know, I've always been a person in this industry that I feel as if any mistake I've made is scrutinised unlike others. And there are a few other people in the same boat as me with that. So it is a weird industry, and I don't think I and the people I work with get the credit we deserve. But in a way, that spurs you on, and that's a life lesson as well, because you're not always going to get that. It's the old sort of working class adage, I suppose. If you come from a working class background and you're trying to make something of yourself in life, you've always got that in you, that, you know, you've got to work that little bit harder, because you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You weren't built. You don't know the owner of this or the owner of that, or this person or that person. So you're always fighting up against it, and I think that can be a good thing. But yeah, no, definitely a good question, and I don't think we'll get the credit we deserve. And the reality is, I could sit here and say, look, I'm probably the best person in this space at doing football watch-alongs or reactions. So many people are in this industry now using analogies. They were never using them. That was always my thing. The reactions I have to goals. If you look at that Harry Kane one last night, I'm like, F off, you've missed, and then I'm like, yes, get in. That's pure. It's you can't script that. A lot of people try and copy that. I think I'm very good at what I do, but what I'm also very good at is I'm very humble. I'm a loyal, well-mannered, trustworthy person. They're my principles, and maybe we'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm also very humble. And I probably don't shout from the rooftops. And that's probably why people like my content as well, is that what they see is what they get. I see other people and they're like, gimme, gimme, gimme. I'm the best, we're the best, this, that and the other. I've got no problem with people saying that. I don't necessarily think the figures add up that you are. I and the team I work with are certainly in the equation. If not number one, we're certainly in that conversation. But the way I work is that, I just think we're all creating great content, and there should be more unity on that, because we're not mainstream media. We're something very, very new and very, very exciting. But it's so divided, and everyone's sort of trying to slag each other off and stab each other in the back, and I think that's the shame on that. But I want to see, look, I'm shifting it again. Instead of talking about myself, I'm shifting it. Do I feel that I get the credit I deserve and the people I work with get the credit we deserve? No, I don't. I think the numbers and the achievement and the growth that we have is unbelievable. You get people saying, because I know what the next question is. It's like thoughts on those people who've left the United Stand, etc., and would you have them back? And we'll talk about that, because I know a lot of people want to answer that. Even I don't really want to talk about that, because I think it's, people want some beef and they ain't going to get it. But you're certainly not going to get chicken either. I'm not going to run away from it. I'll talk about it. But it's interesting, because I do get, you do see people saying, oh, United Stand's fallen off, Goldbridge has fallen off, meaning that, you're on the decline and that. And it's like, well, it's funny how we've fallen off, isn't it? Because my smallest channel, which is Twitch, has got more followers than people who were apparently, better than me. That's Football has grown from like 200,000 subscribers to nearly 500,000 in a year. So it's not falling off, is it? And I don't want to have that debate either, but the reality is it's not falling off. What we've got is good, it's growing, and it's fantastic. But people are always trying to push you down. People are always trying to, I suppose that's what happens, isn't it? Maybe I need to be a little bit more like those people who are sitting there going, look, we're amazing, look at this, look at that. Maybe that's a development for me. Maybe that's a development point, because I think every day is a school day. Maybe I do need to be a little bit more, we're the best. What I do and what my team do, we are the best, because we're quite humble in relation to that. But maybe you lose the likability then. But good question anyway. So next question: thoughts on those who left and left United Stand and talk about you. Would you rehire those people? Well, look, I know what this is all about. This is about trying to, because I'm not stupid. I'm on social media. I do see things going on. I try not to get involved in it, because one of the biggest regrets I had when I came into this industry was that I sort of got drawn into this sort of stuff, and it sort of hit its peak with that football match that I had with that guy. I'm not being rude by not naming that guy, by the way. I just don't want to mention names, because then people will be going, oh, he slagged him off, he slagged off. What I'm basically saying is, when I had that football match and everything sort of grew, I think it benefited both parties, but it was that for me was that 2018, 2019. That's to me when YouTube beef sort of hit their pinnacle, and to go back towards that, for me, you're walking into an area, and I'm going to talk about it as well. What's one of your biggest regrets from doing the United Stand? You're going into something that I think you need to move away from. I think YouTube beefs and social media beefs are, leave it for the bloody boxers and everything else, everyone else who's doing that stuff now, because I just think it's very Hollyoak scripted nonsense. But there is a real element to it as well. Of course there is. And you do get things said about you, accusations against you that, that I wouldn't say they're difficult or keep me awake at night, but they're disappointing. So, in relation to thoughts on people who leave the United Stand, or whether I'd rehire them, the first thing I would say is never say never. I do believe in second chances, and I do think that most things can be, put right, or, yeah. So I'd never say never. That's the first thing I would say. The other thing I would say is, and I've mentioned it before, is that look, it's very easy in this industry and it's very easy in life to just spread lies about people. You know, it's very easy to say that I know this person, this, which is why I refuse to sit here and start saying this, and this about people, because one, it doesn't serve a purpose, and two, you know, I'm very happy with what I do and I'm very happy with the people that I work with, and my conscience is clear. I don't see the point in spending time going on and on and on about things and getting into those beefs and wars, because ultimately that means I'm not happy. So I've got no interest really in what people say or want to start up, because actually I know for a fact that when, for example, when people have left the United Stand, and the person that hurt me the most when they left United Stand was the very first person who left it, which was years and years ago. And again, I'm not going to name the name. And they went on to do great things, working with football clubs and stuff. And it was a career decision, and it was a right thing. But it was disappointing at the time, because that was our first experience of somebody leaving. And of course, people are going to leave. But what people don't realise is, and look, I'm more than happy to say this, is that everybody who's left, on every occasion I spoke to those people after they'd left, and most of the time it was me picking up the phone to speak to them. So this notion that people left on bad terms or anything like that, well, maybe there is some enduring bad terms with them, but that was certainly not displayed on phone calls with me. And also I think that what you've got to remember is that from the United Stand point of view, we've always been about building people out. Very easy when you start the United Stand and it's successful because of me and the people who are doing the things behind the scenes, but in front of the camera it's me. We made a decision collectively that we wanted to build that out, so it wasn't just me, that it was actually the United Stand and not Mark Goldbridge. So we made the decision to bring people onto the channel. So for people we gave them that opportunity. We could have said, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do fan cams. We're not going to get guests on. We're not going to do that. And we did. So to criticise what we did when we opened that door up, and I'm talking about general, not the people as individuals, is for me somewhat hard to swallow, because we, you know what I mean? It's like, this was our thing, the United Stand, and we could have kept it as our thing, very obviously. The views are mainly bigger when I do the shows, so I could have just kept doing that. But I opened the door. We want it to be a community, which it is with the people who watch it, but we want a community of people in front of the camera as well. So that was our decision. We didn't have to do that, and we did that. We opened that door. And as well as that, we never tied people down to contracts or anything like that, which in this industry has been a learning curve for me. You should do that, because we paid people, but we didn't tie them down to contracts, so that when they've left, they can just go, I'm going tomorrow. And that's happened, and that's disappointing, because you expect, well, you've been with us for a couple of years, or 4 years, or however, or 5 months, that if you leave a job, you don't just go, tomorrow I'm off. But we allowed that freedom because that was important to us. And look, maybe that was naive in hindsight, but to say that we somehow have treated people badly and not used them in the right way is silly, because look at the facts. We didn't have to let people on the channel, and they were free to come and go as they pleased, and they did. So, that's one thing. And they were paid. The only people who were never paid were people on fan cams, because at the end of the day, if you start paying people on fan cams, well, I'm going to talk about fan cams in a bit. But, and as I said, look, I'm not blind or deaf to the fact, to some of the criticisms. And look, as I say, look, every day's a school day. I don't act like my farts don't smell. I make mistakes. But actually, when I look at some of the things that some people in our, I read the chat, and some people in the chat will come along and say, oh, such and such left, and you didn't let such and such go on their channel, and this, that, and the other. Oh, hold on a minute. If Gary Lineker's working for BBC and ITV want him to go and work for them, do you think BBC are going to let him go on ITV? Look, at the end of the day, if somebody leaves our channel and sets up their own channel, and then somebody on our channel says they want me to go on there, and they ask us, then quite honestly, I'm going to say, well, you can go on that channel, but we just won't use you on ours anymore, because at the end of the day, we're all pissing in the same pot, and that's a personal choice. I don't know why people have such an issue with that. It's a personal choice. That person can go and go wherever they want, because, as I said, they've got freedom to do that. If they choose that they want to stay loyal to us and not do other things, that's absolutely fine. But if they want to go onto somebody else's channel, that's up to them. You won't be coming on the United Stand. That was a decision that we all were very happy with at the time. And look, and I'll own up. I have said to people when they've left, at the end of the day, I would have expected a thank you, considering you were a nobody before you came on the United Stand, and the United Stand has given you that platform. You can dress that up as saying, well, you were nothing without the United Stand. Well, to be absolutely blunt, these things do get said. I firmly do believe that there are people, myself included, that if it wasn't for the United Stand, would probably have very little interaction on social media because nobody know who you are. I just, maybe I'm wrong, but I just expect a little bit of, class and professionalism from people when they work with us, and that's all I expect. And I think that's all the people I work with expect as well. And with that, you get a massive exposure and a massive community that's going to be very interested in you. And if you decide to leave and go elsewhere, then all the best at the end of the day. That's the way it is. But I might, as I said, in relation to people coming back, of course that could happen. The door is always open. But I'm not interested in YouTube beef or anything like that. As I said, people who've left, I've had conversations with every single one of those people afterwards. And if you are turning it into some sort of YouTube thing, then the reality is, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? For what reason are you doing that? To me, it doesn't make any sense, because the conversations I've had with these people, the last conversations I've had, were absolutely fine. And one thing you've got to be very, very careful about in this industry, 100%, is the whisper in people's ear. And I'm not sort of wandering away a bit here, but one of the things I find most disappointing in this industry is that there are people quite high up in mainstream media. You'll see them on the telly, you'll see they've got millions of followers. They have a negative impact towards, I suppose, the United Stand and me, because people have been in their ear saying he's a prick, this, that and the other. And I find that very disappointing, because as a life principle, I'm a firm believer that there's always two sides to a story. There's sometimes 10 sides to a story, but you can't take one person's side to a story and then hold yourself up as somebody who's a good person. Because if I walk out and meet my mate for a beer in a minute and he says to me, oh, Dave down the road, he's a complete dickhead. If I make my mind up that Dave's a dickhead on somebody else's word, I'm a sheep. I am a sheep, because I've formed an opinion without ever meeting Dave, and I've done it just because he's my mate. Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, and I'll teach you another lesson as well. Trust is something that everyone's the superstar of their own Hollywood movie, right? But can you really trust anybody? And I would say no. I think there's very few people you can actually trust. So why would you trust their opinion on somebody when you know it's loaded with bias? Maybe my mate doesn't want me to like Dave because he sees Dave as a threat, or because Dave might become my mate as well, And there's a lot of that in this industry, where people listen to whispers about people without actually ever meeting them. I've met a lot of people in this industry, and there's quite a few where I've gone and done a shoot with them, or I've gone and met them in social events, and they've gone, you know what, and I respect them for this. They've said, you know what, I thought today you're going to be a bit of a knobhead, because a few people have said to me, you're a bit of a knobhead, and the way that you come across on camera is obviously you're very self-assured. Actually, I think you're a nice guy, and that's been said to me so many times. And then I'll say to them, right, who was the person who told you about that was an obed? And they'll give the name, and I'll go, yeah, it's not a surprise. They've been doing it for years. But that's not the point. The person who's done it for years probably hasn't spoken to me either. So it's like you've got people slagging you off. They've never spoke to you, and then they're damaging you to other people as well. And I mean, look, you can guess a lot of who those people are, but I would say as well, I don't have any issue with them. If I see them and they want to have a chat with me, I'll have a chat with them, because to be honest, I do regret some of the issues that I had in the past, where I was quite, abrupt when I came into this industry. But to cut a long story short, I wouldn't believe anything you hear on social media about bad things about the United Stand or me, because the reality is you never know where that's coming from, and you don't know why it's coming. The reality is the door is always open for people, and never say never. But my conscience is clear in relation to the way people left this channel, and I actually think we've been a victim ourselves, actually. But I will never discuss that publicly because I think that, there's a level of professionalism and class and respect. But yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, that, as I said, we didn't have people under contracts, they just left. And, in some of those cases, that was massively disappointing. And you trust and respect people and you don't expect that. And then it happens. But that's life. I don't hold a grudge. I wish them all the best. But, as I said at the start as well, people act like the United Stand owes them something. I don't think it owes me anything. I don't think it owes anybody anything. It is what it is. It's a mammoth. It's absolutely huge. How can you be bitter towards something that opened the door up and made a lot of people what they are? It gave them a massive, massive platform. You can regret leaving. You can wish you were never involved in it, I suppose. But ultimately, we opened the door and invited these people in. They weren't there at the start, and then they decided to go. And at some point, I'll decide to go as well. I think people don't respect that because everybody is the superstar of their own movie, and I get that. But when you're the superstar of your own movie, you talk about yourself a lot. It's all about you, and this industry is like that. There's a lot of people who it's all about them. Well, surely in life, the person who is the real star is the person that it isn't all about them, and they can see the bigger picture, and they can see faults, and they can learn from it. And I think that to me is the most important thing, because as I said, there's people way bigger than me, massive, millions of followers, and they clearly are not those people. They're maybe the superstar of their own movie, but they're clearly not self-reflectors. They clearly get somebody in their ear, and they take that. He's a nice guy, so what he says must be true. I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry if you're a person who takes somebody's word without actually knowing anything about the other person or having met them, and that's a big disappointment. But that's sort of moving away from something there. How long do you think you will carry on doing the United Stand or YouTube? Well, I think this is a really interesting question, because I would say, and this might be surprising, clip it. The United Stand is for sale. It's always been for sale. I think that I really enjoy doing the United Stand, and everybody who works with me on it enjoys doing it as well. But we've had this conversation many times. If somebody came in and said, look, we want to take this and turn it into this, and we don't feel that we can do that, then you would be selfish to go, no, it's ours, that's the way it's going to be. Of course, the United Stand has to continue. In my dream and vision, that's what has to happen. And I wouldn't say I'm going in the next 2 months, because, I think plans have been put in place with the United Stand before to sort of try and do that. And then every time you do it, you build people up and then they end up leaving. So, and as I said, good luck to them, whatever. But the reality is, the United Stand is for sale. Of course it is, because why would you ever say it's not? Because, look, if a big company came in, and I'm not saying mainstream media, but whatever, they came in and said, we want to take over this, and we want to do this and this with it, and we want to keep you involved, but this is what we're looking to do, and it was for the betterment of the channel, then it's for sale. Of course it is. I'm very wary that the United Stand is, it's a dangerous thing as much as it's a great thing, because if you get things wrong, as big as the audience is, you can push an agenda or push a story or a motive that is wrong, and then you've done it. You've made that bad decision. So I'm always open to the fact that the United Stand is for sale, and we're always open to those conversations, and we have had those kind of conversations, and it's been like, that's not right for this is not right for the audience. But the future's yet to be written. The future's yet to be written. And I think my goals and ambitions are probably separate to that of the United Stand. But I love doing the United Stand. And, the funny thing about this is that when I started doing this, there was another channel called Full Time Devils, which everybody knows about. And they were doing quite well at the time. And, there was a bit of sort of beef, I suppose. And I do regret from my side how that ended up going. But ultimately, all I ever wanted to do is basically go on there and be a presenter. And I was a bit arrogant about it. I was basically like, you should get me on. I think I could, I think it'd be really good. Was I wrong? United Stand's got 1 million subscribers, massive amounts of views. Was I wrong? Or were they wrong? I think they were wrong. I backed myself on that. So, the United Stand was born out of the fact that nobody would really, get us on. The conversations I had were that they were looking for people from Manchester. And I was like, well, you know, so basically that's up to you. That's your choice. Of course, you've got to respect that. But, you know, I can put a Manchester accent on if you want. So United Stand started up because nobody would really give us a chance. And it's become what it's become. But, you know, what I want to do, I love doing the United Stand because I love Manchester United. But we'll have to just wait and see on what the future is. I don't see a future without the United Stand, and you know, my vision for United Stand is always for it to be, you know, bigger and better in relation to the voices that it has on there, and it must always cater for the amazing community that it has. Regrets on leaving or being in the police. So this is a good question as well, because you know what? One of the things that makes me laugh about this is, right, the negativity around having worked in the police is just, I get it, right? I totally get it, because my family were not from that sort of a background, and when I went in the police, it wasn't a very popular decision. And I'm not in it, and I've not been in it for years now. Like, we're coming up for 10 years since I left. So I don't even associate my life with that anymore. It was something I wanted to do. I explained why I wanted to do it. I was right to do it. And then I left, and I said I would. I just wanted to go in there and do a certain type of policing. I wanted to be a detective. I wanted to help people. And I wanted to do something that actually really interested me. I was very into, you know, these crime dramas and things like that. And, you know, you see things like Line of Duty now, and I love it. And I used to do that for a job. So it's like, you know, I don't regret it. I don't regret leaving it. But what makes me laugh is the negative connotations you get about it. That, you know, ultimately, if you go into the police, you're not trustworthy and you're a grass. And I've heard people saying once a copper, always a copper. I've never heard such bullshit in all my life. The principles I've had from, you know, being a teenager to now have not changed because I did that job. And what makes me laugh is that, look, there's a lot of people who do that job, and no doubt there are people who do that job who are dishonest, who are bullies, etc., like there are in all walks of life. But when I did that job, you're telling me that there has to be a negative around that job. There's nothing I did in that 10 years that I thought, well, you know, I regret doing that. I didn't do anything that was against the law. I didn't do anything that, you know, was, you know, Line of Duty would have come after me for. I wasn't. I did it honest. I did it the right way, and I did it for the right reasons. I went in there. You know, there was cases that I dealt with where, you know, people, you know, you're the first on the scene at a knife attack, and, you know, you're giving life, you're assisting and giving life-saving treatment before the ambulance gets there. You know, you are helping and comforting a family who's lost a family member, a victim of crime. And I don't mean lost, like dead. You're called to a school because there's a child there whose mum and dad have just left the house and left the child there. You know, you've got to go through like social service and everything like that. You're investigating a crime where, you know, women have been attacked and are victims of very serious offences. Society needs this. It needs this, and it needs people to go into that job like I did with the intent of helping people and doing it right. Unfortunately, there are people who go in there and do it wrong, and, you know, that gives it a negative impact. But so I don't regret doing that. I know why I did it. It was a very personal thing, and I did it, and I'm very happy that I did it, and I never wanted to do it for the rest of my life. I wanted to do it for a certain period of time, and I did. So people who want to chuck negative connotations about that, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't really know what those negative connotations can add up to, really, because when I did it, it was very, you know, you're on the end of a radio, it's job to job to job to job to job, and that's the way it is. And it was very fast paced, and it was very busy, and I saw a lot of things, and I experienced a lot of things, and it probably changed me quite a lot because of a lot of the things that I saw. But I don't have any regrets for doing it, and I actually don't have any regrets leaving, because I think I got what I wanted from it. And I respect a lot of people who still do it, and we're going to go into it because we need people like that. We need good people to go in there and help people, whether it's ambulance staff, whether it's firemen, whether it's police officers, fire officers, surgeons, doctors. These people are the fundamentals of the society. Slagging them off, well, I'll tell you what, What are you going to do then when your house gets burgled? What are you going to do if somebody shoots you? What are you going to do if somebody kidnaps you or a family member? What are you going to do if your house is on fire? What are you going to do if you have a heart attack? Screw them, you know. You need them. So no, I don't have any regrets about it. And I think people who try and post the negative connotations towards it are probably people who were scared of having the cannabis taken off them or something minor like that, which I never got involved in. I couldn't be asked with anything like that. You know, minor offences were actually just a hindrance. You know, those sort of things are just so low level, they waste your time. You almost felt like giving them a ticket for wasting police time, because actually, for every person who's carrying a bit of weed or, you know, getting into a scuffle on the street for swearing or something like that, you're taking the time away from the people who really need you. And I'm sure teachers feel the same about that as well. What's Mark Goldbridge like behind the scenes? Well, look, as I said before, I think that I've always owned up to the fact that mental health is something that I'm very aware of, and depression. And I just always assume that everybody gets this. I don't know if they're, you know, whether I'm unique to anything else. I always assume that everyone else gets this. I just get days sometimes where it's cloudy and I don't feel good. And I don't mean like it's cloudy outside. I mean, I just don't feel good. I'll get days where I'm tired and I'm moody and I'm irritable. And I presume everyone else gets like that. I can get moods where I'm a complete arsehole, and I can get moods where I'm just very lethargic, and I presume everybody gets like this. But as I said before, a lot of people I meet are, especially in this industry, are the superstar of their own film, because they've got to get what's good for them, and I've got no problem with that. But I think maybe it's an age thing, maybe it's the things I've done, but I'm a very, 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 very aware that, you know, you do get. People make mistakes. People are moody. People, you know, and I think that I'm very aware of that, and I've always been that sort of person that can acknowledge that after the mood. I can go off. One of the things I've really had to work on is that if something happens I don't like, I forget about it. Just forget it. I'm not going to do it, and I still do it to this day. But I try to be that person who takes a little bit of time on things. One of the best bits of advice I was ever given was that no matter how high you go or what you're doing, some people are just very much like, they believe that they've got to have the answer, and the answer doesn't have to be a quick answer in life. Like, if there is a problem, sometimes, you know, you walk out of a cave, you realise it's this bear's cave and he's right in front of you. You haven't got time to phone a friend. You've got to act quick. But a lot of things, a lot of problems, you don't have to rush into. And even though you're a leader, or you think you're a leader, or you trust your own opinion, you might have an idea how to solve a problem, right? If you're a football manager and you've got 10 minutes to go and you're losing 1-0, and you've got 2 strikers on the bench and a winger and a midfielder, you might think the best thing I can do is get those 2 strikers on the pitch. But you've got an assistant coach and another coach. Is it worth taking 30 seconds to quickly chat to them and see what they think? Because they might say, you're right, but they might say, well, how's about we mix it up and try something a bit different? And when you're armed with that information, then you can make a choice. And I think that's one of the best bits of advice I would give that's helped me a lot, is that don't rush into a decision that you don't have to rush into. Take your time, think it through, get a bit of advice from people that you want advice from, and then think it through and make the right choice. And I think that, you know, that's something that I've had to learn, because I am prone to just making instinctive things. Like, somebody will say that game's good on PS4, and before I've even thought about it, I've downloaded it, I've played it, and I've regretted it. And I thought, you know, if you just waited half an hour for that buzz of, oh, that's good to do, you wouldn't have bought it. But, you know, so I'm a bit reactionary at times, as people know. I can be a bit reactionary when I'm watching football. But, you know, I do think that I think people who can't self-reflect are their own worst enemy. I get tired of people saying, oh, you know, me this, me that, I'm this, I'm that. And I'm like, if you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this, do you ever self-reflect and actually, is there anything bad you do then? You know, does your shit not smell? You know, do you not bang your foot on a cupboard and swear? You know, if you believe everybody, they're just perfect. And I don't agree with that. I don't think anybody's perfect. But I think you've got to have your core principles. And as I said, that, you know, the big things for me will always be loyalty, trust, which are hard to find. They're hard to find, and you'll spend a lot of your life disappointed with those things because they are very hard to find. But that doesn't mean that you should drop those principles and become an arsehole. So yeah, I sort of forgot what the question was there, but it was a good one anyway. Have you got any... It's okay. Do you regret doing the United Stand? And I think this is like, do you regret doing the police? Do you regret doing the United Stand, YouTube, etc.? There is one thing that I regret, and that is fan cams, and I'll explain why in a minute. But the big positive for me, that why I would say I never regret it, is the community. I remember starting, we're coming up for, is it 7 years now of doing the United Stand? Sunday night at 9 o'clock with about 50 people watching for the first few months, and then now look at where it is. The community is just unbelievable. And everybody talks about, I've got a great community, I've got a great community. Well, I have got a great community. The United Stand, we do have a great community because it's built on years and years and years. And some people have been with us from the start, and some people have been with us a couple of weeks, but it doesn't matter because you're part of the community. And that community theme, there's not many people out there because there wasn't many people doing live content. You look at all these people doing live content now, even mainstream media does it. We were really unique with live content. Everybody was doing 10-minute pre-recorded videos. That was the thing to do in YouTube in 2014. And we were doing live content. And, people sort of laughed at it. And, so that's a proper community because it's been going on for years. And that's the big positive. My regrets, I've had a few. Look, I have some regrets about my reactions. Rashford harder than a wedding night dick was not my best analogy. And there are reactions that I look back now and I just, oh my God. Like I saw one about Harry Maguire the other day and I was like, oh God, no, fuck off Harry Maguire. But at that time, I felt like that. And I don't know what the context is key as well, because remember, at the end of the day, all I want is Manchester United to win on the United Stand. I want United to win. So if we're winning and somebody makes a mistake and costs us, it could be Bruno Fernandes and he'll get both barrels. Like, that's just the way it is. So I am a little bit like cringe in relation to some of my reactions when I look at them, especially when you get it so badly wrong. But it is pure. It's pure and it's real. And but I am, as a personality, when I was younger, I could get embarrassed about thinking about a scenario. Oh, imagine if I did that in that scenario. Ooh. So look, that still resides in me. I'm very good at just moving on from it now. I didn't used to be, but yeah, there are things I look back and I regret. But my biggest regret has always been fan cams. I really don't like them. And people say, well, you're a massive part of why there's a negative around that. And I have to own up and say yes, I am, because the United Stand does fan cams. And if you look at some of our fan cams over the years, they've been toxic, of course they have. But I, and anybody who knows me, will absolutely, and there's probably even articles, and I think in the 442 one I did a few years ago, I even said it, so it's in written word as well. I've never had a comfortable relationship with fan cams. I don't like them. But that's my opinion. And you go back to the United Stand community. Do I have the right, when you're building a community like the United Stand, to say, no, we're not going to have match fans at the ground saying what they think? I made a decision for the community, basically, that we should do it because it would be nice for our audience to get it, and other people are doing it as well. So why wouldn't we do it with our own slant? And we did do that. But I never was comfortable with it, and I don't like it. And of course, on the rare occasions I get to watch United now, and I do go, and obviously I'll go and do my sort of match reaction. They're the most fake reactions I've ever done. You're waiting in the crowd, and I'm thinking, oh, what can I say that's going to, because it's almost like, it's like Eminem in 8 Mile. It's like rapping in front of a crowd. You are basically, when I do a match reaction, or when I'm doing this now, I'm in front of a camera. Nobody's here going, what a great point. Maybe some of you are watching it and going, that was a great bit, I'm going to listen to that again. But I don't know that, so it's just pure. When I do a match reaction, I've got no one clapping me on. Even the live chat's about 20 seconds behind me. So if I say something, I'm not going to see the laughing faces for at least 20 seconds. So I don't know. I just go with it, and it's pure. When I was doing those fan cams, or whatever you want to call them, I'm like very aware that there's this audience around me, and I can hear him nodding and going, yeah, he's right. So you're basically scripting yourself before the mic's in front of your mouth. And I think that's dangerous, because then you've got to start saying things that are controversial, because if you start saying Ollie out, or this player's a load of shit, and people are like, yeah, you're basically being fed by the crowd. So I never was comfortable with fan cams, and I do feel a regret about them, because I think it's created a toxicity in our fan base that it doesn't suit Manchester United. Maybe it does suit other clubs, but I don't think it suits Manchester United, and I agree with those people that don't like them, because I've been there and I've seen the crowds. And look, a lot of people do like them, and you've got to respect that. But on the same hand, you've got to go, there's a real strong feeling in our fan base against this, and we're just going to do it because some people like it. Surely a community is about listening to all people. So I do regret them, and I don't find them very pure. And away from United, I also think they've jumped the shark, and what that means is I think they've had their day. I think we need to move on from that and find better ways, because I think people just waiting to shout and scream about stuff, which they've clearly got no idea about as well. I'm not talking about United here, but moaning about results when your team's been shit for years. Maybe you want to look at the owners of your club. Maybe you want to look at why your club's failing. So I just think we're better than that. I think we're better than that. And so I do regret that, definitely. But I've always regretted it. Like, even when we were doing it, I was having conversations about it. It's an uncomfortable thing for me personally that I regret. But look, we've done it, and I think the main thing is that we did it, and acknowledging it and looking at different ways of doing things, definitely. How do you relax? Right, very difficult, very, very difficult, because as people know, I do a lot of things. But for me, when I'm doing my gaming, I know I might stream when I'm playing it, but that is relaxing, apart from when I'm losing at FIFA. But away from everything that you don't see, then my big relaxation is obviously spending time with my family. And, I do like to watch. I know it's boring, but I do like to watch, Breaking Bad, a really good series on Netflix. And, I love watching that. Ideally, it would be with the wife or something like that, so that it's time together. Cinema, film, I love that. I do like to get out and about. I do like to travel and stuff, but that's difficult because it's like, you've got to cover everything else then that's daily content. So it is very difficult, but I do like to do it. And yeah, there's sometimes where I just say, I'm taking a couple of hours out. I'm going to go and have a lie down and watch something on Netflix. So yeah, a bit of a boring answer, but you need to do it. And sometimes as well, the most simple thing, and this isn't just relaxation, I think this is mental karma as well, or whatever you want to call it. It's good for your mental well-being, is that sometimes I'm a chain to the desk. I'll be doing, whether it's, sorting out your insurance, or, preparing for a video and research and everything like that. I won't get away from the desk unless I need to eat. But I don't need to be at the desk all the time, because that half an hour I've spent researching, I could have just done that later on, and I've probably, I'll spend too much time doing it. I'll go outside and cut the grass, or I'll take the dog for a walk, or I'll walk into town and get something. And that half an hour cutting the grass or going for a walk is so valuable to me, because it gets you away from being a chain to your desk, and that's relaxation for me as well. That's mental stability for me as well. That helps. So I always think getting a bit of fresh air. I think getting a bit. You need to get outside and get a bit of fresh air is what we used to get told as a kid. But fresh air actually means, to me, getting away from doing something and just doing something different. And I think that's really important as well. There's so many more questions to answer actually, but I realise how long we've been talking, so maybe there needs to be a part 2, part 3 of this one. But this is one question I did want to answer as well. What are your future goals? And I think this is really interesting, because my future goals are always very difficult for me. 5-year plans, etc. Look, the United Stand hit 1 million subscribers. It's not really about subscribers, it's about views, really. That's what you really should be looking at on YouTube. It's about your views. And our views are very good. Obviously, That's Football's going very, very well. I really enjoy this channel, Mark Goldbridge channel, so subscribe to it, actually. I like doing this sort of thing because it's a hobby. It's a hobby for me, whether it's the cooking, the driving, the reacting, or doing stuff like this. I enjoy it because it's just something very different. And, I don't want to be boxed off by United. I'm always going to be United because that's the club I love, and I love football. And That's Football has allowed me to move away from being boxed off about United, because I love football and I watch a lot of football, as people will see who watch that. But I also do like this channel and the cooking or the driving or things like that, because I think it just expands my passions away from football. I love this sort of thing. I'd love to be properly interviewed. I'd love to do that. I have a wide breadth of interests, and I'm always looking to learn and find out about new things. I like interviewing. I like being interviewed. I like presenting. I like being a panelist. You know, so there's lots of things I'd like to do. You know, I want what I do to become bigger and better, and not in relation to money, but in relation to opportunity. There's not many things I've turned down. Like, you know, people say, oh, would you have people back on the United Stand? Of course I have. Of course I would. Would you go and be a regular on another channel? Well, maybe I would do. Maybe I would. And I'm not just talking about YouTube. I might be talking about a mainstream media thing, you know, a radio station. I don't know. If it was for me, it's about the project. You know, I've not named anybody in this because I think that's the way to be, because I don't want people to go, oh, he said this about you, that about you. But there are people, right, that I get on well with, who I like. I don't know whether I trust them because I don't know them well enough to do that. But there are people in this industry who don't do United Stand or anything I work with that I like. And when those people say, can you do this? Can you do this for this video I'm doing? I don't go, I'll do it, but I want 500 quid or £1,000 or whatever. Because the project they put to me is interesting. And that's the thing that drives me, is it's the project. There are things I do that I get paid for, you know. There are brands that approach us, and quite rightly you should get paid for them, because why should you be promoting a brand? Why should I promote a brand unless that, you know, there's some value in it for me? And it might be monetary, or it might be products, or it might be interview this person for us. But the thing that drives me as a creator is to do things I want to do. Like if somebody says to me, come and play in this 11-a-side game at Wembley, I'll go and do it, and I won't be paid because I want to play at Wembley or I want to play at Old Trafford. If somebody says come and do a cook-off with, you know, Chris Eubank, I'll go, well, I used to like him as a boxer, I'll definitely do that. So I think for me it's about the projects, but I don't want boundaries. You know, I do want to work with some really high profile brands that I respect and like growing up. I do want to do shows with people that I like and respect, and I do want to do things that are new and creative and exciting. So, you know, for me the future is yet to be written, but the boundaries of my future are quite big, hopefully, God willing, because look, I'm always going to do the football. I can't imagine me not doing football content because I'm too passionate about it. I love it. You know, people see my reactions, they're real. That's me, that's football. Nice little pun there. But I can bring that to other areas, whether it's cooking or driving or fishing or, you know, playing football or, you know, presenting. So yeah, strings to Brent's bow, literally. But respect is something that I think is important. Don't think there's enough respect for me or the people I work with in this industry. Not sure we'll ever get it. Not something that keeps me awake at night, but goes back to question one, which was, do you get the credit you deserve? And I don't think we do. And I think we do deserve more credit because I think we're good people, and I think we're professional people, and I think we work hard, and I think we've built something that not many other people can get close to. And I think anybody who's close to us has actually done it in a way that's very different to us as well. You know, there's people out there I respect who are in the same category that we are, with huge amounts of investment and money behind them that we've never had. You know, we've done it in a very different way, and I think that if we had that huge investment and everything, we'd go beyond those people who we're fighting with at the moment. Not, and I'm fighting in a competitive way, but there are people who are in the same area as us, and their setup is unbelievable, and we do it in a very different way. And their setup is that because they've got loads of money to pump into it. Imagine if somebody came along and said, look, you're fantastic at what you do, we're going to set you up in this situation. I think we'd go above and beyond anybody else, and that's not arrogant. I do. I think if you drop me and my team into certain situations, we would take it beyond. You know, as an example, put me on Sky Sports. We'll blow the world apart with views and everything. Now, I don't want to be on Sky Sports because it's mainstream media. In the current form, I wouldn't want to do it. But you know, I do think that there's so much potential, and it would be nice to get that respect and opportunity to do it. But if not, we'll just keep doing what we're doing. And I thank you all, most importantly, for giving us that opportunity to do it, because the community we have is strong. So I hope that's answered a lot of your questions. I hope a lot of it makes sense. We can always do it again and get some clarity on it. But thanks everyone for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Smash a like and make sure you subscribe.